Hi there. I'm assuming that you've seen part one of this three-part series, in which I discussed how to be able to encourage people to go into moods of peace, rest, and tranquility by paying attention to what makes them feel good, and then allowing that experience or exposure to that which makes them feel good to happen, and to possibly associate that with something else, and then repeat the something else, like a smell or a piece of music or even food. Well, how this kind of works is, I guess, you could, in one sense, describe it as neuro-associative conditioning. And that might sound a bit kind of spooky, like hypnosis or something like that, but it's very, very natural. In a sense, you could say we are the descendants of the red berry memory eaters. So just imagine, our Neolithic ancestors walking through across tundra, very hungry. Maybe they could have seen some red berries on a bush conveniently near a cave. And so they think, oh, red berries, and we're hungry. So they go across to the bush and eat all these red berries. But of course, the red berries are poisonous, and their system doesn't like this. So that night in the cave, oh dear, their bodies decide to eject the remnants of the red berry poison from the system. And it's a very kind of noisy night, but also a very smelly night as well, and rather uncomfortable, whether you're in it or near it. And in the morning, they wake up, obviously now hungry, because their bellies are empty again. And some of them would have looked across and seen the red berries and thought, oh, I'm hungry, there are some red berries, let's go and eat some. Dum, 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 and they eat even more. But others have developed a kind of an odd neurological thing, and that is that their system begins to associate different neurological modes with each other. So, for example, sounds with pictures, or sensations with images, or sounds, or smells, such that because their body remembers the sensation of the nausea with the image of the red berry, so as they go closer to the red berry bush again, the sensation, the memory of the nausea in the belly gets stronger and stronger and stronger, such that by the time they're almost touching the red berries, the nauseous feeling in their belly has become so strong that it actually begins to override their hunger. And the mere thought of touching the berries makes them literally vomit and feel sick. So they back off from the red berries because they can't go near them, and therefore they don't put poison in their system, and they survive. Whereas the ones who didn't have the ability to cross-reference neurological data in this way ate more berries, poisoned their system, and they died out and didn't have offspring. So we are the descendants of the red berry memory eaters. And this means then that every time that we encounter a brand new situation, the emotion that we experience in that brand new situation becomes encoded and bound up. For example, in England there is a city called Birmingham, and various people can have different ideas of Birmingham, but essentially Birmingham is just a word. Now, if somebody went to Birmingham for the first time and had a wild weekend making love with somebody in a passionate affair, and it was just amazing, and they had good food and good wine, for them the word Birmingham is a delight, right? But somebody else could go to Birmingham for the very first time, get attacked and beaten up in a coffee shop, maybe lose their car keys. For them, the word Birmingham is a word of dread, the sound of nightmares. And 10 years later, they could both be working for a company in, say, the northeast of England, and they're told, right, well, this year's sales extravaganza is going to be held in Birmingham. Now, the first guy hearing the word Birmingham, he's going to be there 2 days early, pitching up tent in the car park. He can't wait, right? The other guy, his unconscious, would mount every campaign possible to keep him away from the place of dread and terror. He'd lose his train ticket, he'd break his leg on the steps, all this sort of thing. And if somebody actually really did get beaten up in a coffee shop like that, and at some stage they ever got made redundant and they were going for job interviews and things, they might find themselves in a position where they can't actually get a job. And not because their CV is bad. Their CV could look fantastic. Their track record, their history, their working, their qualifications, absolutely brilliant. On paper, they look, this is the candidate. This is our guy. But every time they go for an interview, they keep kind of failing the interviews. And they start after a while to wonder if there's something wrong with them. They redesign and reshuffle their CV around, but it's nothing to do with that. Because what can happen is, if this person in this example did get beaten up in a coffee shop, every time they go for a job interview, they fill out the forms and things, and then the receptionist says, "Thank you very much. Mr. Smithson will be with you in a moment. Can I get you a coffee?" And every time someone says the word coffee, in the back of the person's mind, it reminds them of the smell. And as soon as they remember the smell, all the sensations and memories of being beaten up in a coffee shop return and come to mind. So their chin lowers, shoulders hunch a bit. They go into the interview, great piece of paper, but slightly morose, a bit deflated, looking vulnerable. The peripheral vision of the interviewer would detect something's not right, something doesn't feel right. This person looks like they should be confident and on top of the world, but they don't feel like that. And sensing the incongruence between what looks like they should be, but in actual fact how they really seem, they go, "There's something amiss here, doesn't quite fit." And so then they'd go with candidates that do seem more congruent at the time. And it's not because the person isn't good at their job. It's not because they've failed in some way. It's merely because, right back in the distance of their memory, where they can't even remember it anymore, they had an altercation around the smell of coffee, and just before every single interview, the word coffee is said by somebody, and it just brings up those emotions. So the unconscious does this naturally and automatically. And the good thing is that in modern applied psychology work, we know how to be able to help a person's unconscious learn new responses. It's very useful. For example, some people have an automated condition response to spotting or seeing a spider, right? So they see a spider, it's an automatic thing. But it doesn't have to be that way. Essentially what's happening is that their brain is identifying a spider and then kind of figuring out what to do with it. So, for example, light in the environment bounces off the spider, shoots up their optic nerve. Their brain says, "Picture coming in," and it makes an image. And then another part of the brain says, "What does this mean?" Right? So, does it mean hope? No. Does it mean relax? No. Does it mean laugh? Does it mean this? No, it means fear. And then a person has the fearful response. But are they having the fearful response to the tiny little black thing out there on the wall or the ceiling, or to the meaning that they've attributed to the image? Now, who attributes the meanings of images in your brain? You do. So is it possible to be able to change the meaning? Maybe so that it's giggles. Every time you see a spider, fall around laughing. Or every time you see a spider, it's time to relax. Wouldn't it be cool, or becoming different? Like, see a spider, yeah, so what? There's a spider over it, so what? Wouldn't it be cool that if you could go into like an emotional sweet shop and select from the entire scope, the entire breadth and range of human emotional experiences, the one that you wanted to attribute to seeing a spider, for example? And that's the kind of work that we can do. For example, sometimes when I've helped people with road rage, what's happening is that they see red car lights in front of them, people are braking, and then they start to get really angry because people are braking in front of them and they can't go along in a flow. So what I've done with people is change it so that when they see lots of red car lights in front of them, not just one or two, but in a traffic jam situation, when their brain recognizes they're in a traffic jam situation and they see in excess of 5 cut red brake lights in front of them, that their body slows down and they begin to breathe a bit more deeply, but their mind becomes more alert. Very important that you have both of those things together. So their body's relaxing, but their mind quickens up, right? And their mind goes into that kind of creative space where they start to think of more ways to make money. And they have a pen and pad of the passenger seat next to them. So imagine some kind of business guy, he's driving along, traffic jam, straight away, we could do that, we could launch this, we could begin to do that, and they start making notes. And then what happens is that inconveniently the traffic moves, so they have to put the pen and pad down, stop it, and then move forwards, right? And after a while they get annoyed that the traffic's moving, because they're coming up with so many new ideas, that they just, put the pen down, get moving again, can't wait for the traffic to stop. And so it's all about context and how you can use your brain to take you into better situations and make use of what you'll find. For example, if you think of this stimulus response, and it is reliable, people who are frightened of spiders very rarely to forget. They don't pick a spider up and then put one out the window and go, I keep forgetting I'm frightened of spiders. No, it's reliable. Now, if you can take that mechanism of stimulus response and maybe have it that the stimulus is seeing a book and the response is memory. It's exactly the same mechanism as the spider thing. See a spider, react, see a spider, react, like that. What about see a book and go, and then remember it? You could go into the British Library and go from Aardvark to Zeus and just get it all in your head. It'd take you a bit of time getting it in, but once it's there, it will retain. So there are various things you can do with your brain to enable it to kind of run for you more efficiently, so you can cooperate with the neurological mechanisms that you're born with just in a natural way. And so understanding this stuff can be very, very useful indeed, I find, and people who come and see me find it's useful too. So on that kind of note, because these video clips have to be short for YouTube, in the next part I'll talk a little bit about deep relaxation and guide you into a way of being able to find access to that very easily. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye.